Hello, Ramadan Mubarak. It's 11:46 a.m. And when I mentioned a couple days ago that this might become a humiliation ritual, this is what I meant. It is pretty late. In my defense, Your Honor, I have an excuse, which is that I totally forgot how much Ramadan can mess up your sleep. And because of that, I slept for way longer. I slept through my alarm, which I actually did set today because I knew that when I go back to sleep after eating the meal in the morning, suhoor, that I might be likely to sleep really late. And I did, and I slept through the alarm. So maybe having no alarms for so long in my life has totally ruined my ability to actually obey an alarm. So that's fun. So before we talk about today, I want to talk about reviewing yesterday. So yesterday I did about 6 hours and 25 minutes of real concentrated work. Again, I would say that's fairly successful. I kind of consider anything 6 to 7 hours of real concentrated work to be fairly successful because I only really track the hours that are really productive and focused. If I get distracted, I usually just cut that whole session out. And so I'm pretty diligent about pausing the timer before I start getting distracted. So anyway, all of that to say, really successful in terms of the amount of hours that I put in yesterday. In terms of the productive output, I continue to underestimate how long things are going to take. But I can say that I did get my production binder shot list done yesterday, which was the primary task of yesterday. Ironically, it was also the primary task of Monday, but I'm I'm estimating things to be half as long as they actually take. So that's something to learn about myself. So I have a few more things that I have been piling up on my list of things to do that I need to tackle early today. I also still have to return some of the items that are sitting ready to be returned. So there's a few things there. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what might be holding me back today. A couple of things. First day of Ramadan, so my sleep schedule is a bit all over the place, and so I don't have the energy that I potentially might have had yesterday. And after a couple of days, that usually normalizes and you sort of get into the swing of things. But today might be a little rough. The other thing is that I forgot to take my ADHD medication when I was having my meal in the morning. So my focus might not be as sharp as usual. And so I'm going to have to plan around that. The advantages to Ramadan, which I have always appreciated as a productivity bro deep down in my heart, is that you skip lunch. And the great thing about that is you can get into a real sense of flow and just work through the entire day in one uninterrupted block, which I love. So excited for that gain from the day. And those are the broad parameters that I think are going to be challenging or positive for my day today. I still have to really collect a focused list of things that I'm trying to do because there isn't a primary goal for today like there was yesterday. I do want to shoot some bits just to continue to improve my shooting, and I do also want to shoot some of the video that I'm currently working on. So there are a couple of things that I need to still do this week. Whether that's going to happen today is a open question, depending on how much other writing stuff I have to do, because those things are piling up for other projects. So that's the broad scope of things. The other thing I thought I would talk about, which maybe someone might find interesting, is how I've been thinking about Ramadan strategies. And I always find it quite interesting, but maybe no one else would find it interesting. So, for those who don't know, Ramadan is when you fast from sunrise to sunset, and it changes by about 10 days every single year. So, it sort of moves backwards in the calendar year every 10 days. So, when I was at university, it was happening during exam season in the summer. When I first started doing Ramadan, it was in September, and it's slowly progressing its way backwards. So right now it starts in mid-Feb, and next year it will probably start early Feb. So that's kind of how it's going. So it's getting slightly easier in terms of the days are getting shorter. And I've kind of devised, I think, slightly different strategies when it comes to the different types of Ramadan. I think that the summer Ramadan, the nighttime is really short, and so I always just shift my sleep schedule, and so I'm just awake all night, and then I eat my first meal of the day, and I go to sleep, and then I sleep later, and then I wake up and do my day that way. And that's been pretty successful, especially when the days are really long, and also when the nights are really short because you just don't have that much time to go to sleep and then wake up again. When the days get shorter, like now, I've always found that sleeping early, having the majority of your sleep, and then eating your first meal of the day, and then going to sleep for like one REM cycle, which is about an hour and a half before waking up and just starting your day normally, is the advantageous thing to do there. If you can. Obviously, if you have work and constraints, you just have to kind of just go with what you can. But given I can control my own life, that's the way. Today, I was just kind of thrown off because for some reason in my head, it was a Monday, and then I knew that the first day of fasting for Ramadan was a Wednesday, but it wasn't. It was a Tuesday yesterday. So yesterday night, I had to go out and buy food because I actually hadn't done a food shop in a while. So it was a bit of a mess, and I went to sleep late, and that meant that I woke up with not much sleep, and then ate food and went back to sleep, and hence why I am talking to you almost at midday, which is not ideal. The one thing I do think about now is that I have a lot more work that happens on Eastern time, and because of that, I usually end up having to work later into the day, and because of that, I am considering using the summer Ramadan strategy now, which is wake up late and ultimately just operate on Eastern time. So for those who don't know, Eastern time is from basically 9 a.m. is 2 p.m. in GMT. I'm not saying I go that far that way, but given I will be up until 5, which is about midnight Eastern, I could feasibly go from 5, sleep from 5 a.m. until like maybe midday and still kind of be functional. I think it would just be really bad for my social life because I am basically trading good sleep for my social life. So those are some considerations that I'm making. But that's the secret, in my opinion, about Ramadan. There is I have always found that the sleep component is always the most difficult one. And the reason for that is not because you have to wake up, but actually because you have to eat food and then it's very hard to go back to sleep. And so, anyway, that's a long ramble about Ramadan. Ultimately, Ramadan is about a focus on your faith and a practice of discipline and a practice of reminding yourself what's important in this life. And so, regardless of all the strategizing that I'm talking about, I'm always grateful to do Ramadan, and it's a fun time. It's a time of reflection, and I love all of that. And I also love strategizing. So hey, sue me. So yeah, that's all my thoughts for today. I am interested to see how today goes because I actually think that if I just continue to shift my sleep schedule earlier, I might be able to just be totally fine. When I say earlier, I mean right now I'm going to sleep around midnight. But I think if I move my sleep schedule, so I'm falling asleep around 10, ideally 10, then I could potentially get a lot of my sleep in before 5 a.m., have some food, and then go back to sleep for a couple of hours and then wake up a pretty reasonable time. And that might be much better because long, uninterrupted periods of time sleeping is just way better for me. Particularly because if I take my ADHD medication, then the sleep that I have after having a literal full stomach, which is always not good, and also with the ADHD medication, which is a stimulant, is not going to be ideal. So those are all my thoughts. Those are all my thoughts. All of that to say, it's time for me to start work. I'm again going to just aim for that 6 hour mark in terms of solid, concerted work. And yeah,